do first off is to record the session. So everyone who has questions after the session, we will give you the opportunity to rewatch the broadcast. One thing from my side, before we jump into the live demo, we will have a short period of time to answer possible questions, and then after our session we will have a little Q&A. One thing up front, the topic is very big and we have to keep it short to an hour. We are more than happy to support you after the meeting to answer your possible questions or even go into a detailed demo. So that up front, but I think we're ready to go. So Jerome, I'm just going to
thank you.
get started.
Thank you. So yeah, the only thing we have done is we muted everyone during the session that Henrik is presenting, but at the time that we have an opening for discussion, I will open up the microphones for everyone unless they don't want to speak. Another thing is after this session, of course, next week we have another session, same topic. It's about RayVentory, but then we go a little bit deeper into the mergers and acquisitions topic, which is a very interesting and very hot topic at this time. So I welcome you to also join us and register, of course, for this meeting as well. All right, Henrik, please go ahead and show us RayVentory.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Again, thanks for everyone to join. Our topic today is RayVentory as a discovery and inventory solution from our company RayNet. Just a short briefing. We are going to take a look at the agent-based and full agentless inventory, the Oracle inventory, dependency scanning, advanced discovery, software recognition, data center inventory, and all sorts of inventories to cover the needs of actually having an inventory and discovery solution in place. Before we start with the topic of RayVentory, we would like to introduce our company to you. So RayNet was founded in 1999. We started out as a consulting company for software packaging. We still have this branch in place, and by the time of 2012 we decided, okay, the software and the tools that we used in the various projects that we had until now seems to be a good software that also other customers could use. So we made the transition from a pure consulting company to a consulting company that also sells software. We have several locations all around the world. Our headquarters is in beautiful Paderborn. We have an office in Regensburg, which is in Munich, Berlin, Chicago, where I'm located at, Poland, Netherlands, and the UK. By the time, as of right now, we have worked with over 600 customers in the past few years, and again, on top of the consulting, we offer the software solutions. We also offer training and services. So that said, we are going to take a look at the content for today. So as a short introduction, we have RayNet or RayVentory as the part of RaySuite, which is our full-blown software application to actually trigger the topic of application lifecycle management. I'm going to give you a short overview of RayVentory, the system architecture, RayVentory in detail, how do we get discovery and inventory information from the target device. We have a list of prerequisites, so from a security standpoint, what do we need to open to actually install the software. We're going to have a demo, and again, I'm going to keep it short. If you're interested in that, we can have a follow-up session to set up, because obviously the topic of inventory and discovery is a huge topic, and we could talk 2-3 hours at least on this specific solution. And after that, we are going to wrap this up with the concepts. So what did we do to our customers by implementing the solution? What did we build out of that? We're going to have a look at the roadmap, and after that we have our little Q&A session. So let's get started. Again, if you have any questions before we start the demo, I'm going to give you the chance to actually have these answered, then the demo, then the Q&A session. Okay, let's get started. So RayVentory is part of RaySuite. RaySuite is pretty much our whole solution that targets the application lifecycle management. So from software asset management to an order portal to the typical packaging that you do, so you configure the applications that need to be deployed into your target environment, and then obviously the deployment. We call this RaySuite because we have a full integrated solution, so every single topic, if we're talking about software asset management, packaging, or software deployment, is actually a full bundle that is powered by a workflow tool. So each and every topic has its own software that we also provide. But today we're going to focus on the RayVentory piece, since we think that a sufficient inventory or 100% accurate inventory is the very foundation of your whole operation when it comes down to IT service management, when it comes down to IT asset management. So our topic for today is the beautiful piece called RayVentory. Again, this is a discovery and inventory information solution. So as the foundation, we are always going to start with this piece of software, since we will need to work on a reliable inventory when it comes down to software, when it comes down to hardware, when it comes down to operating systems. So that said, the very foundation, RayVentory, will then power other tools, such as a software asset management tool, such as consulting from our side, which is called RayOptimize. So we can take this data, analyze it, and give you recommendations, for example, on what kind of software you want to use in your network, what kind of software has equal functionality. So basically what we do is to manage the software from the very starting point of an inventory and discovery solution. We can also power various ITSM solutions, such as user evaluation, or I believe it's pretty common on the US market at least, the ServiceNow piece. Okay, so bottom line, what do we do? Obviously, we're going to start with the discovery. So we are going to actively go out to your network and ask every single IP address that responds, what type of asset are you? Are you either a client? Are you a server? Are you a printer? Are you a switch? So discovery is the very bottom where we start. And on top of that, obviously, we can grab the inventory of the asset, which means we are going to collect the hardware information, the software information, but also we are going to determine the operating system which you are running on that very target machine. Speaking of that, obviously we had some changes in the last couple of years, so there's a lot of virtualization in place right now, so we are also able to gather the hypervisor information, such as VMware, Hyper-V, or OpenStack. And last but not least, we have the application layer. So we are going to identify, okay, is there a possible database service running on that? What about the software that is installed? Let's say we have an Adobe Reader in that specific version on that very target machine. So this is pretty much the aspect from the discovery and the inventory. This is what we do. And again, I'm going to show you that in the demo in a second. But let me continue with my slides right now, and we're going to take a look at the system architecture. So with the inventory and discovery solution, we tackle pretty common network topologies. So let's say we have a headquarter that is connected with a firewall to a branch office A, and then we might have a demilitarized zone for, let's say, special security needs that is not connected to that branch office. So how are we going to get the inventory data out of the target environment? And this pretty much brings us down to the system architecture. So we have several ways of doing the discovery. One is a completely agentless approach. So it's entirely working on the network level. So let's say the server goes out to the target device and it asks for the IP address, the DNS name, and then we have the asset in our database. So we can work with that. We have a physical evidence that that a client is inside this network. What happens to, let's say, the office that is not directly connected via VPN? We can also tackle that. So when we talk about, for example, a demilitarized zone, we can extract the scanning component from our software and then go directly towards that server, put it on a disk drive if you like, and get the information from it. Everything around the scanning and the discovery can also be powered by the RayVentory portal. So it's pretty much a web service that helps you to actually deliver the inventory data. But we're going to take a closer look at this technology in the live demo. Maybe one thing to mention is that we are also able to adopt the client, which means that we are able to actually install a client that will then take care of inventory and discovery. The actual solution can also build an infrastructure, which means we can operate multi-tier platforms. So let's say we have the so-called core distribution server that can spawn a so-called child distribution server, and the child distribution server can then take care of the actions that the normal core distribution server would do. This makes a lot of sense if you're operating several offices around the globe. You would put a child distribution server in place that will then report back to the core distribution server as our single source of information, where it can do the reporting on. And yeah, this is pretty much the architecture view. The whole connections between core distribution server and child distribution server are obviously encrypted. We have several options to deliver the data from HTTP, HTTPS to FTP and SFTP. And let's take this up front because we have an additional slide to that. You can see the actual requirements of opening up your network to our solutions are basically a minimum. So for example, for discovery, we would require the ICMP type 8 open. For inventory, obviously on Linux, SSH. For Windows, we would use RPC. So you see the ports that actually need to be opened are very close to a minimum. All right. We're going to give you an overview of how this works in detail. So the basic approach, and again I'm going to keep it short, is to generate an inventory. Based on the inventory we have the methods, so this helps to execute the required tasks to actually gather discovery and inventory information. We will build a repository, which is pretty much our core distribution server and a single source of truth. So in the normal case, we are going to operate one single database where every data is collected in. On top of the repository, we have the reporting, and then we can take this data and, for example, feed a SAM solution and do the analytics. So analysis will also include our consulting services, but in a nutshell, this is pretty much our solution right here. All right. So the RayVentory portal, I've put that up prior to this. So we have a web interface that will help you to actually spread the inventory and the discovery client. We entirely operate on Windows, so what the requirements from that side are is that you have a Windows server in place with a Microsoft SQL server. The actual database that is running on that server can also be on the cluster, so we can separate the application part from the database part. And then we use the IIS to actually take care of the operations, such as, okay, please generate me an inventory. The IIS or the web service will then trigger the functionality on the client side. Maybe really important to mention right here is that we have an API. So what we can do with that is to actually bring in the solution, and if you have let's say if you have SCCM in place already and you will require these information to be in the inventory piece as well, we can fairly easy adopt to that by using the API and then also the SQL standard connector. Maybe really important to mention right here that we are really flexible with our solution. Okay, this is pretty much the list of the supported operating systems. So you see we pretty much cover everything in terms of Microsoft, but also the Linux and Unix pieces, macOS as well. So I didn't think we encountered a customer right now that we were not able to satisfy with the supported operating system. So yeah, we can pretty much cover the whole environment from there. All right. I talked to that a little bit earlier, the RayVentory piece that you can extract and put on a disk drive will include the Oracle inventory and the Vsphere inventory management. So what this does is to actually go out to hypervisors and Oracle databases and grab the inventory information from there to help you to also manage and work with these pieces. I will keep it short here because obviously it's more interesting to see that in the demo. Just in a nutshell, how does it work? So we have the option number 1, which will dynamically go out to the Vsphere inventory, query the SDK that is in place, and then come back with the inventory information. And again, we also have the option to extract the Vsphere tracker. You can put it on every machine that you would like. And this Vsphere tracker will then go out to the actual Vsphere environments and grab the inventory information. Pretty much the same for the Oracle inventory, so we can trigger the inventory directly from the distribution server. We will run several scripts. As you might know, if you're common with the Oracle environment, we can execute the Oracle Review Light scripts, get the information from the server, or option 2, again, extract the tracker, go directly to the database, and then report back on LMS CSV here. All right. So I guess, Jerome, do we have any questions? Because I would really like to go ahead and show the live demo.
As far as I can see, there has been no question asked, but please, people, if you have any questions, just put them down in the question bar and we'll answer it right away. Thank you so much.
Perfect. All right. So let me dive into the demo so you can see the actual solution in action, which is obviously a little bit more technical, but okay. So what do we have here? I talked about that earlier today. We have a Windows server with Microsoft SQL on top. We have the IIS to take care of our actions when it comes down to tasks and logging. The actual solution comes in 2 ways, so I'm going to show you this first. This is pretty much the console. See, we have dashboards for reporting. So this is the main application from the server side. we also offer a remote console, so you can have this remote console installed on your workstation and then pretty much connect towards the server. You don't necessarily need to log into the server. And then as for the second part, this is pretty much the RayVentory portal we've talked to a lot. This helps you to generate inventory on Oracle, Vsphere, and also on normal machines. I am going to start with the actual console. So this is the view, this is the starting view. You see we maintain a dashboard, so you can see right away, okay, how many, what kind of operating systems do I have in place, what's the status on my distribution servers. We could also plug in several other components right here, so depending what you have already in place, this dashboard helps you to actually visualize it and also take advantage of that. So let's get started. I'm going to take you to a typical scenario where the server is installed in your environment, and we are going to start off with a discovery. So the discovery task is pretty much the thing that we start off to actually fill the devices view, as you can see in the background. So we want to know, okay, what type of actual clients on servers are you running in your backend? What's the DNS name? What's the IP address of these servers? And the discovery task pretty much takes care of that. So as seen on the slides, we have several options to do this. Let's call this one discovery test, maybe 2. We can choose the actual server where the discovery task is executed at. So when we refer back to the slides, we can choose, okay, please execute this discovery task on, let's say, the child distribution server 1 or on the administration server. We can also do both if we like to. You have the options to actually perform a ping sweep, so the machine will actively go out to every single IP address that we will see in a second and ask, okay, IP address, are you there? What type of device or network device are you? The second option would be to actually ping a DHCP server, which makes sense. So you have a single source of truth when it comes down to machine information, such as IP address and obviously DNS names. I'm going to stick with the actual ping sweep right here. So as mentioned, you will have the chance to, let's say, we want to scan this particular class BNet, and then maybe the class CNet. So as you can see, the range is determined by, obviously, the subnet mask. So this task right here would go out to every IP address 10.14.50.0 to 10.14.50.255. And then also because we changed the actual subnet mask from 10.14.50.20 to 10.14.50.20. Anyway. So for the options, we can report on open ports right away. Which makes sense if you want to know about the security situation in your environment. But this will also report on, let's say, open database ports, maybe FTP servers. So we kind of go into the application layer from a discovery standpoint. And one of the most important things is to report the operating system fingerprint. So the discovery task can take care of identifying the target device. Are you a switch? Are you a Windows 2012 server? Are you a Windows 10 workstation? Are you a Linux workstation or even a Linux server? We can report on the Snmp information. We're going to have a small little session about this. Maybe we want to do this. And then report available database services. As mentioned, it's pretty much the same technique that we use for the open ports. And yeah, available Intel AMT information and test remote execution credentials. So test remote execution credentials is fairly important since we want to determine if our users that we maintain in the database are able to access that specific machine. So several options. Okay, here are more ports I want to scan. Let's say we want to come up with something crazy. Maybe a second one. So the agent actually takes care, or the discovery agent takes care of scanning these ports and reporting back on, okay, are you open? Are you closed? Database discovery options, okay, locate machines running SQL Server browser or scan ports for SQL Server agents and use WMI queries to locate SQL servers. This helps us to actually find out, is there a database running on that target machine? SQL ports, 1433 is pretty much standard. If you have something crazy in your environment, you can also do this. Add another port, see if there's an SQL server running on that specific port. Snmp settings, so what we're going to do is to actually provide the community string, either it's public or private. We can also add both, and then a timeout and retry. So if the actual SNMP information hasn't been gathered for 3 tries, obviously it's going to take a 4th try, and after that it will stop. So rescheduling options, which absolutely makes sense if you have a moving network. Let's say there are new laptops registered towards that specific laptop, and I don't want to miss out on them. So it absolutely makes sense to reschedule the discovery task to see if there are new devices in that specific subnet. I'm just going to run it once right here, and yeah, that's pretty much it. This is what we do from the server perspective. So you have a little summary. Okay, what are the options I chose right here? You're going to click Finish, and what the system will do is to actually generate a task, which you can see in the task view. Task will report back 3 different status. A, I was successful, green. Red, I wasn't successful. So the option of logging will be enabled, so you will have a decent overview of what went wrong with the scanning, and then obviously you have warnings. So if you go out to 3,000 devices and going to scan them, obviously there might be something that fails. Let's say I wasn't able to connect or the machine was offline, but the task view will actually give you an overview of what is the task on my discovery, what is the task on my inventory. So let's pretend the actual scanning process was successful. What we will get back is pretty much this overview. So you will have machines inside the devices view. This is the very moment where we go out and actually do our operations towards the target systems. Before I do that, I'm going to show you the Credential Manager, because this is something that we will require to actually generate the inventory. So we will have to have a user that is able to authenticate against that target machine to get out the inventory information. It doesn't necessarily have to be an administrative account, but from our perspective, it absolutely makes more sense to have an administrative account in place, because you will get all inventory information and not just a part of it. Especially when we talk about serial numbers or further information on the model, on the BIOS level, we want to have an administrative account. What we can do here, and again, it's all everything that we see here is encrypted in the database. It's pretty much the option to generate the account. So let's say Windows account for obviously Windows domains, a local account for Windows devices, or an SSH account for Linux and Mac OS. So let's simply create one. Let's say, since we have Jerome on, we want to call the domain Jerome.
Thank you.
And maybe the user block. No problem, no problem. We're going to enter a password. And then you have the option to actually set a filter. Let's say I want to use the user Braak in the domain Jeroen only in the Netherlands. So the system is going to take this user only in that specific DNS domain or in that specific IP address range or on that specific MAC address. You want to click OK. You want to click Apply. I'm double naming right here. Maybe admin NL. Here we go. That's about it. This is the options that we need to take before we're going to take a deep dive into the inventory. So based on the Credential Manager, the actual system will then go out and use these credentials to perform the actions. Performing the actions is pretty much this. So this beforehand, you can do a multiple select if you like to, right-click the device, adopt it. This will install the agent or simply execute command. Execute command will give you, I'm going to leave this as a standard, a list of options that you have how to generate the actual inventory. So standard way would be to generate an inventory. The system from this previous scan knows what type of target device I have. So let's say Windows or Linux, and obviously it's going to choose the method how to discover the inventory information based on the target device's operating system. You will also have the chance to actually create or generate the Oracle inventory or give access to the Oracle database to generate the inventory. I'm going to pick that up on a later point in time, but this is pretty much what we want to do. We're going to choose the distribution server. Let's say we want to execute this on the child distribution server 1. We will have the option to reschedule the task, maybe target the IP address. We can also wake up the device if it's if we're not able to contact it. And then either or depending on your, let's say, personal preference, we don't want any user interaction, so it can show a tray icon that will pop up and say, we are going to generate an inventory right now. Most of the time, this is not wanted. You don't want any user interaction, but we have the capability of doing this. Again, I'm going to show you the scheduler. So the recommended command schedule commands, so we're going to start today on election day, and we want to end the world, oh no, wait, that was wrong, on the 10th. So we have 2 days of where we generate the inventory. We want to generate it daily, and then every day from, let's say, yeah, 5, once a day at 5. That's pretty much it. Little overview. Finish, and this will pretty much generate the task right here. So the actual remote command task that we've just generated will be also in the task view. Again, we have all the different logging options. It was successful, it wasn't successful, this is the reason, or it has warnings. Let's say one of those machines didn't respond, and we are going to have a clear picture of these machines. So before we jump into the reporting, so the very essence of what we're going to grab from the target machine, I would like to introduce you to something that we do for your network devices. Let's say, let's find a switch right here. So what you can do from here is to start an Snmp scan if you didn't do that on the discovery piece. But this option will actually do a full Snmp walk, which means that we are going to refer to a so-called OID catalog. And the Snmp walk will take every single OID out of this catalog and run it towards the target system. The reason why we do this is that if you're familiar with the Snmp protocol, that every single OID has a unique MIP, and the MIP is nothing more than a text file that gives you the actual options of what properties and what values can I get out of that target device. That said, if we have the switch right here and we do an Snmp scan, it will go back to the OID catalog, choose the OID that fits the actual number and description of that specific model, and then it will run the Snmp property or the MIP properties based on that target device. I hope it's not too complicated, but let me tell you this. If you have a switch right here and you do an Snmp scan, the OID will be added, and the next time you're going to discover a switch like that, it has the exact information that are required to actually get the properties out of the system. So it's a self-growing catalog that is maintained by the information you discover from your network. All right. Reporting would be a good thing right now, but I kind of want to show you the actual exe file. So this is the RayVentory portal. Again, this is a self-running exe file. You can either maintain it on a server or a workstation, or you can just put it on your disk drive, go out to a specific server that has certain security restrictions, and run this little piece of software. What this does is also to generate Oracle inventories. And you see the requirements that we have are fairly small. So you will have the URL, the user, a port, and the service. What this allows you to do is to run the Oracle Review Lite scripts. So you would just go in here, paste your CSVs, and then the agent will actually take care of running those scripts on the Oracle database. The inventory is in an NDI format, which is pretty much an XML format. You can encrypt that, but this will give you a small overview of how we're going to handle these inventories. So for every part we have a so-called class, a property, and a value. I'm going to take you to the inventory of this specific machine right here. Let me do that. Sorry, I didn't open that beforehand. But the operating system inventory on this specific server right here is pretty much built the same way. So you have your classes, you have your properties, and you have your values. And this is pretty much it. So it's an XML format. You can see, I mean, it's my demo system, but 480 kilobytes. You can also compress that if you like to. So my point is that the network load that you are generating to actually get an inventory is really small. So if we compress that, I guess it goes down to maybe 20 kilobytes. But you will have all the necessary information inside this NDI file. Let's say we want to have the operating system information. You can see, okay, I'm running a Microsoft Windows Server 2012 Datacenter edition. You will have your BIOS information such as the manufacturer, the version, release date, serial number. And then all the way to the bottom, you will have your evidences on software. Okay. So what we do in terms of software is to actually obviously generate the information from the WMI, the registry, the MSI cache, and we can also do custom scans. I know it was common when you were running IBM software back in the days that those were not register and add remove programs, but we can take care of that. So it's a fairly complete inventory when it comes down to Windows. One thing, and I'm going to keep it short, the Vsphere Connections right here is pretty much the same. So we target the SDK that is running on that specific URL. We're going to authenticate with that user and that password to grab the information. So how does it look like? We're going to go to the reporting. We're going to take a look at, let's say, VMware infrastructure. So the reporting is also running on the Microsoft reporting services. for Microsoft SQL. So if you have people that are knowledgeable about generating these reports, you can easily train them to actually generate your own custom reports. What does this do for us? I'm going to start off with the VMware infrastructure. We can actually map, let's say, this system right here is running on that ESX server, the ESX server is running on that cluster, and the cluster is running on that vCenter. So you would have a mapping of your virtual infrastructure, which is a pretty good thing to have to actually manage that infrastructure as well. So I'm just going to dive into, let's say, this little machine right here. So this is what a typical entry of the inventory looks like. This is entirely based on the XML files that were generated and imported into the database. And you can see your hardware information, such as the processor, the network interfaces, the operating system that you're running, but also the actual software information right here. And this is pretty much raw data, right? So the hardware classes that we've known prior to this, you can expand. And again, you can see you have a property and a value. And this is the raw information we get from the target machine. So whatever you do, the operation that you have after generating the inventory are based on these informations. I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the Oracle server. So this is pretty much the thing that we've generated on connecting to an Oracle database. When it comes down to Oracle, most important is, okay, what type of Oracle product am I running on which hardware? Because that will determine the entirely, or the licensing and the license that you need in your environment. Our scanner is somewhat unique because we are able to actually reduce the amount of false positives that we have. So let me give you an example. So the review light script normally will also generate an inventory on the options that you have. But what our scanner can do is to actually give you, obviously, the base information on the hardware and then the information on the Oracle product. So there's a big difference between installed components or options and actual used options. If you have ever operated on an Oracle database, there might be a developer coming in and he would need advanced security. He would install it or he would use it once. It will automatically install that option, but it's never really used. So our scanner can go out and determine, okay, is this option used or not? And it will also give you a little bit of further information why we think that this option is not used. So this is right here. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview on the dependency mapping, because that's fairly interesting as well. So what our scanner can do is to actually go out to the machine. You would have your hardware and software information on here, just like the one we saw prior to this. But what we can also do is to report open ports. So this comes in handy when you want to determine, okay, what or this specific server, to which clients is he actually opening connections. So this will help you to understand what clients are accessing which servers. So you have the ports from this specific machine right here on that IP address on that port towards this specific machine on that IP address on that port. So this is pretty much the mapping of applications, so we can see where is the network traffic generated from what server to what client, from what client to what server. Is that the case? You would also have the entries for the client, obviously, so you can see all open open connections right here. Now we're getting pretty close to an hour here, so let me show you a little bit of an overview what we can do with the raw inventory data that we've just generated.
Sorry, Henrik, maybe you can answer one question. Will it also report server roles?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, this is pretty much part of the inventory that we generate. So the server roles will pop up in this view, and you can see it then under the options installed. I hope that answers the question. Okay, so what do we do with the raw inventory to continue working with that? Part of our product is application recognition catalog. The application recognition catalog will allow us to actually run the raw inventory data against a catalog that will tell us the exact version, the vendor, and the release name of the software. So it's somewhat of a rationalization and normalization of the software. Rationalization in this case because you might run up to 5 PDF viewers in your environment and you only want to use one, because that will actually reduce the amount that your help desk will spend on supporting all these 5 different products, although they have the same functionality. So again, we use the raw inventory data to run it towards the application recognition, and the application recognition will help you to actually make strategic decisions on, okay, what's my software application portfolio, what do I want to run in my environment, and reduce the amount of software that you actually roll out towards your network. So give me 2 more minutes, because I believe we're pretty much coming to a closer end. You see we have tons of reports that we generate out of, or that we deliver in the standard. And again, we have the ability to actually customize these reports, so everything that was generated back to the XML file can be reported on. Okay, maybe one thing that I would like to show you is how to build the infrastructure. So it's fairly easy, because what we can do from our software is to actually roll out the child distribution server and then tell the child distribution server to actually report back to our administration server. So it's a self-growing application. The only real thing you need is to have access to this specific console, have a user that is able to install software on this, and then you can build your whole infrastructure from this single point of information. So let me take a look at my, I think we pretty much covered everything. Again, this is only a small glimpse into the world of RayVentory. So if you have the necessity of, okay, I want to have reports on this, I want to see how a report looks on all of my users, all of my machines, all of my software, please let us know. We're more than happy to help you with that. But I'm going to switch back to the actual slides, and I'm going to wrap up this session right here. So we'll start right here. So prerequisites, I know I've talked to that prior to this, but you see the actual impact on your network is fairly small. Okay, we have an agent-based approach that will only require the port 80 to be opened. For the remote execution, we need RPC 135 upload port and 139 for the SMB connection. For Oracle, 1521 or whatever port you have in place, and then the VMware SDK is running on HTTPS, so we directly connect into that. Okay, sorry for that. I'm going to switch over to this, and I'm going to introduce you to some concepts that we brought on the way in customer environments. So left side should be fairly common to you. So inventory, methods, repository, and then the reporting. And what we did for this specific customer was to actually put in a security extension which will hide and mask the data that you have in the database to, pull the personal information out of that. Obviously, that was a customer in Germany, so we're really strict on actual privacy when it comes down to computers or your personal data inside the network. And then we use this security extension to actually provide this information towards a SAM tool, so a software asset management tool. Maybe another example of what we did, and this is a fairly big product in the end. You see a lot of other products from our side also working with this. So we used RayVentory to do the inventory on hardware and software. We did the usage metering on software, so what software is used by what user. We did the identification and normalization, so the things that you saw in the report. So we ran all the raw inventory information towards that catalog and got out a normalized view of your software. And we also did a performance metering on this. So in the end, we build a solution that will determine, okay, this specific user right here should either be on a fat client or on a thin client based on the performance of the machine, the usage metering of the machine, or the hardware and software inventory that he had. So in the end, it was to actually determine, okay, is that a power user or not? If it's not a power user, we can certainly put him on a VDI. If it was a power user, we would put him on a fat client. So we also implemented the software asset management solution into that, and then based on the inventory, we would go ahead and package that and put the user into the so-called future mode of operation. So it comes down to data gathering, where we are right now with our RayVentory, then the analysis, the transformation, and then the landscape. So the whole solution pretty much builds on the data we gather with RayVentory. Okay, just a little roadmap, and I promise I'll be fast since we're almost coming to the top of the hour here. So, as of right now, we are planning the 10.6 release with the dependency scan as a plugin. So you will have a better way to actually visualize your infrastructure. We will increase the Oracle or the functionality on Oracle Discovery. We will introduce a new Oracle tracker that has more functionality, and then we will also go ahead and support the Windows Server 2016 and SQL 2016. The next major upgrade will entirely focus on master inventory. I have a slide on that. Let me tell you, this is going to be pretty exciting times for us. So again, master inventory, I'll have a slide on that. We are going to extend the functionality on dependency mapping. We are going to introduce support for several cloud services. We will have an advanced reporting, which is entirely based on dashboards. We will introduce OpenStack and agentless solutions, which will obviously not write anything towards the target environment. We have something like this in place already, but what we would like to do is to make the scanner more intelligent. Let's say we were able to gather these information on this type of device, and the scanner will then create a rating on which methods he's going to use. So in the end, we will reduce the actual execution time of the commands that we push towards the target device. So that's our next major upgrade. All of this pretty much came from our strategic department and customers that require these solutions. So it all comes down that RayNet in the end is still a consulting company. So if you have a problem, if you like the solution that you see and you need to overcome certain obstacles, we're more than happy to help you and engineer the solution for you. So one thing on the master inventory, I'm going to skip this because we want to see this solution right here. So top of the slide, the current, our current mode of operation. Bottom is the future mode of operation. So what we are going to do, again, we're going to discover certain assets, we're going to process them, we're going to put them in tables as our single source of information. What will come up with the next release is that we are going to actually gather information from other devices. So, or systems in place. Let's say SCCM, your virus scanner, and RayVentory. So what RayVentory will allow you in the future is to actually grab all this information and then use the data to analyze it. Let's say you have 20,000 machines on SCCM, but you have 30,000 machines in your virus scanner. So why is there a difference? And again, we as a discovery and inventory solution are going to help you to actually close the gap. So a lot of connectors to already common pieces in your environment will be a part of the next major release to improve the data quality to really generate the master inventory. All right, we have 1 minute left. So upcoming as well would be the cloud service. You can see a little glimpse of the reporting that we have in plan. So we are going to operate on dashboards, and we will also with the next major release include working with Office 365, Microsoft Azure, and Amazon Web Service. This all will be implemented in our RayVentory portal, the exe file that you've already seen, to even extend the amount of information that we get out of your target environment. We have this partly right now, but for the next major release, again, we are operating on customer needs, and if this is something that we could use in the product, it will then go into production. We will release these features on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So I think this is it. We would also share, Jerome, if I remember correctly, we would also share these slides so you can take a closer look on what's coming up next.
Yes.
But,
absolutely. Yes, we will share the slides and this session. We'll put it on a share or on YouTube. There were 2 questions, actually 3 questions are there still open. One of them is can RayVentory also inventory AppV or TinApp?
So what we have in place, and Jerome, this is probably something for you right now. What we can do, we have an extension for one of our other softwares is the so-called AppV Manager. So the AppV Manager can actively go out to the target machines and give us a list of applications or virtualized applications that are running in that environment. As of right now, it's not in the standard, but we have certain technology that can do that. So it's a question of getting that functionality into RayVentory, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, at this point, we cannot out of the box do an inventory for AppV. Or it should be customized scripting, or it would be through our PACV manager or PAC manager for AppV, it's called officially, and that will be that product will be launched in a few weeks actually in the new RayPack version. Okay, got another question. Which version of RayVentory was demonstrated today?
It's the 10.5 version. and our next release will be obviously the 10.6. And I believe in the middle of the year it will be the version 11, so with the major changes.
Okay. So 10.6 will be released somewhere in the end of this year, and 10 and 11 will be released in the middle of next year. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And then the last question: when exactly will be RayVentory? Okay, yes, that question is answered. To be exact, when the releases will be.
I'm really cautious on the actual release dates. So this is probably something we will have to come back to, but on the roadmap right now, and again, we're going to share this little slide with you. So we can pretty much say this right here. So 10.6 somewhere around this year, 11 in the middle of next year, and then we're going to continue to include the actual functionality that our customers come up with, continuing on that.
Okay, yeah, and of course RayVentory is a very strategic product for us. We see, as we already told you in the introduction, in inventory and discovery, but also mergers and acquisitions and everything that has to do with optimizing your license position and keeping track of your assets. It's going to be more and more important for small, medium, but also large enterprises. So that's why we keep on investing.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is to actually, and Jerome mentioned that on November the 13th, we're going to have an additional session on mergers and acquisitions. So this is pretty much the baseline that we've built out. What's the functionality? What's the architecture behind that? The things that you want to do with these, and I'm going to give you an example of that, will be part of that session. So for example, we as a company offer the so-called Dhcp. It's a 7-step methodology on operating system migration, and based on these 7 steps, I'm going to do this right here. So again, the baseline for this whole process is again RayVentory. So you will have to discover your actual network. What type of machines am I running? What type of software titles am I running? What type of users do I have? And then based on that, work with the data to obviously do inventory. Let's say, okay, we have one version with installation count of 4 for the Adobe Extension Manager. So we pretty much run the raw inventory data towards a catalog and then give you a better idea of what actual applications you are running. Step 3 in this place would be the recognition summary. So what type of software based on the GUID of an NSI or the remove programs did we discover? What type of family is this in, and what's the version difference? I mean, oftentimes you go out to a network and say, okay, our customer right now is running 52 different versions of 7-zip because it's not managed. So you have everything from a version 4 to 9.2, and what you want to do based on this reporting is to actually reduce the number of versions that you have, but also reduce the number of titles that actually take care of, let's say, zipping or unzipping certain file extensions. But yeah, I would highly recommend to actually be part of the follow-up session.
Yep, it's on November 15, same time, same place. So yeah, everyone is more than welcome to register for that session. Thank you. Yeah, right.
Sorry, I would love to speak more about this. I hope this is sufficient for a baseline. What we really do is to plug in where the inventory and discovery component really comes into play is when you work with that data, when you actively manage your software and your user data. But yeah, RayVentory is pretty much, from what I've seen in the past on several POCs, it's a really powerful tool when it comes down to actually generating an accurate inventory.
All right.
So,
well, thank you so much, Hendrik, for this very detailed presentation. I don't have any more questions from the audience. I think everything was pretty clear. Of course, we have a more in-depth session next week, but if you have any questions or you'd like to have a more in-depth demonstration or WebEx, we are more than welcome to send you to set up a session for you or your organization. And yeah, thanks again for being on this session, and hopefully see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.